There's no reset button. I felt like I was about to faint. The reset button wasn't at anywhere I looked. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince seemed like he was actually planning to kill me because he raised his sword up. Wait, I shouted in panic. Then the Crown Prince spoke, tilting his head. Looks like now you have the mindset to speak. That's right, I will tell you. I nodded my head crazily. The sword he has lifted up was once again set by my neck. Go on. Well, I did say that I would tell him because I was panicking, but my mind went blank now that I was going to tell him. I mean, what do I say really? I cannot say I followed because I intended to die, and I shouldn't die as long as I knew that the reset button didn't exist. Should I turn on the choices? However, it wasn't guaranteed that I could live even if I do turn it on. It was actually because it was not on that I survived until now. I can hear your brain rolling to come up with something from here. It was then when the Crown Prince smirked coldly, not being able to wait a moment of me crazily trying to come up with something. I'm very excited of what you'll say. The interest gauge bat shined dangerously over the top of his head. It'll have to be a reasonable excuse. I really dislike someone blocking my way in the middle of anything, he muttered, bringing the sword to my skin with a little more pressure than before. Warm blood streamed down my neck, fear of death and pain. That took control of my brain. I like you. Therefore, without thinking anything anymore, I spit out the words that even I found was stupid. What? His crimson eyes widened. I shut my eyes closed tight and shouted. My mouth was already out of my control. I've been liking you the whole time. I thought I could comfort you from the previous incident because I thought you would be hurt by it. This was a totally idiotic dialogue that didn't appear in either the hard or the normal mode. It was true that in the normal mode the heroine faces the Crown Prince and comforts him, but that was only possible because the heroine didn't witness the scene where he sliced the murderer's neck off. Shit, even though I didn't know what to say, why did I have to say that I liked this insane brat? But if you think about it, there could only be one reason why a noble lady would follow a man into this kind of creepy maze, is what you could say if it's a talk between a normal man and a woman. By you crazy game, I'm possibly going back home because I'm going to die now. It'll be a 1-star review with me curing it. I closed my eyes and trembled, prepared to feel the pain that'll come down on me soon, but no matter how much I've waited, the sound of a sword slicing through the air couldn't be heard. A Duke family's crazy dog in love with the royal family's wretch. The night breeze tickled my nose bridge. I carefully opened my eyes, listening to the low mutter of a Crown Prince. That is such an unexpected excuse. The blood like red eyes was right in front of my eyes. I was not breathing since I didn't know when. He stared at me with his face filled with interest. You probably didn't see me that lot though. You probably just took a glimpse at me for the first time at my safe return ceremony. Actually, I didn't see him then either. I only saw him today for the first time in my life. It was obvious since it was after that ceremony that I reincarnated into this body. I replied, my body tense. I fell in love at first sight that day. What part of me do you like? Well, I was speechless for good this time. What could I say? No, how could I? I remember drawing X several times by his name when I reorganized the novel last time I glimpsed at him and forced to reason out my brain before he loses his cool. Your facials make you very attractive. To think my only charm is my face. This is making me sad. You are very brave and is very skilled with your sword. Your reasons are just things that could come out inside any box. Do you not have more original and interesting reasons? That's well, I was now about to faint from all the replies and questions I was getting. To be honest, I was barely able to stand up right now with my shaky legs. The cold and keen sensation on my neck scared me very much. The Crown Prince's smirk grew bigger and bigger each time I tried harder to hold back my tears. I was crazy for a moment there. It was crazy for me to try and die from this kind of horrible creep. It was right when I was about to faint backwards. Alright, though I'm not so satisfied. I'll let you free for today. The blade of a sword that was digging into my skin was removed with those words. I raised my head in surprise when the Crown Prince spoke in a voice filled with excitement, his crimson eyes glowing. However, you'll have to explain specifically why and how you came to like me the next time we meet. I nodded my head like an insane person. Go and leave now, he spoke while sliding his sword in its sheath. At that moment, the interest gauge located above the brilliant golden hair started to shine, then interest 2%. I stared at it for a moment, dumbfounded, not because I was happy and relieved, but because it was very ridiculous. What are you standing there for? Looks like you want to play draw the red line game again. The Crown Prince spoke while looking at me stupidly standing, his thumb motioning a slice on his neck. Not at all. I jumped on the spot, then drew back. I turned around completely, and started fast walking just when it seemed like I've arrived at the entrance of the maze by backstepping. At that moment I couldn't think of giving a proper farewell greeting to a royal like how I should. Walking fast and not running when I could feel the crown prince's gaze on my back was the best manner I could provide. I started to run like crazy just when I turned to a corner. The cold air grazed past me, stinging my cut neck, but I was too busy in my head to even feel the pain. There's no reset button. It was that fact that scared me the most just before the crown prince was going to slice my neck. The fact that my insurance I've trusted up until now doesn't exist. It meant that I cannot die like how I wanted to. What if it's really the end when I die? What if I don't go back to where I came from but really just die? I was just a normal female student. I didn't have the biggest guts to deal with these kind of dangers. The only choice left for me now was to reach the ending with one of the characters. But how could I endure and reach an ending with one of the characters who tries to kill me the moment I make even the smallest mistake? The fact that all the male characters' interest went up wasn't important to me. That kind of thing, even though you try hard to raise them up, they'll always drop in one go like a sand castle would. What if I work my butt off trying to raise their interest on me, but it all just drops in a go like it did in the game? Then it's death. But I didn't want to die. Why should I when I survived risking my life trying to escape from my blood-related brothers? Why do I have to die that ridiculously in a crazy universe like this when all I do is curry favor with the bastards I don't even know? Tears fell from my eyes and the sound came along with the huffing, but it was all out of my control. Thanks to me running all the way back by following the lights, I found myself back at the entrance of the maze garden faster than I reached the center of the maze. I was only a few steps away from actually exiting the garden for good. I bumped into a person in front of me who I couldn't see from the dark. Me, who wasn't mentally stable at all, felt immense fear rushing over me from the thought that the crown prince may have chased my back. I was going to start running again when my wrist was grabbed. Let go, I screamed, scared for life. Let go of this lady. Why do I have to die? I don't want to die. Lady, I who was shaking the hand I was caught came back to my senses at the sensation of someone grabbing tightly onto my shoulders. Are you okay? The ultramarine blue eyes that were wide with surprise came into view. Then I saw the silver hair shining under the faint light. Then I came to see the shining interest 0% above it all. Calm down, I am not going to hurt you, I gasped from crying when the guy spoke with a pleasing voice making me stiff. Is it one of the main character again? I felt despair when I realized who it was that I bumped into. Binter Verdandi, he was a sorcerer and a marquis. I'm fine now. I calmed down quickly just from the fact that it wasn't the crown prince. I raised my hand up shakily up to my eyes and wiped the tears down. I wanted to go back home. I didn't want to be here at this place even for a second longer. Adding to that, I didn't have any mentality left in me to face Binter either. I've caused the trouble to a person I've never met before. Please forget what happened right now then. I spat the words out after roughly wiping my face. I bowed as a greeting, then tried to walk past him, but then I was stopped again. You're bleeding a lot, he said, pointing at my neck. You're also so pale. I'll take you to the doctor here. It's fine, I need to hurry back somewhere. Then at least take this. Unlike me, who didn't want to deal with this right now any longer, Binter didn't let me go but took something out his breast pocket and handed it to me instead. Lay this over your wound and press on it, will stop the bleeding. It was a white handkerchief. I stared at it for a moment before accepting it. I couldn't walk back into the ballroom when I was bleeding like this anyway. I bowed once again and opened my mouth to speak. Thank you, I will be sure to return the favor. There is no need for that, he rejected as he reached his hand out towards me. Then instead I wish for the sadness to be gone in these beautiful eyes the next time we meet. The warm hands were so close to touching the areas around my eyes that I could faintly feel the heat. Interest 9%. I was all too focused on the letters shining above his head that I couldn't check to see how he was looking at me. I've actually stopped bleeding by the time I arrived at the door to the ballroom with the handkerchief pressed against my neck. No one knew if Binter secretly casted magic on it. Knowing that he was a sorcerer, I flinched to a stop when I was about to enter the ballroom to check on myself. I didn't know wearing a dress with such dull color would be this much of a help today. The blood stain on the dress I was wearing were hardly visible due to its dark color. Thanks to that, I only had to give my hair a little touch before I went, and finding Derek was very easy. Our Mr. Capture target with cold aura was shining alone out of all the people surrounding him. He told me to just stay quiet and not make a fuss. He'd be mad if he saw my neck cut. I was too focused on thinking back to the warning Derek gave me when we arrived at the royal grounds that I didn't notice the gazes of people all looking at me. Didn't notice that I wasn't fine just because my dress was fine. "Brother," I called him out quietly. Fortunately, he heard this quiet call that was close to a whisper from all the way in the crowd because he turned to look at me right after. "I think I'll be leaving now. I'm not feeling too well." Derek's blue eyes widened when he spotted his pale little sister, who looked like she was about to faint with a blood-soaked handkerchief pressed against her neck. Right now everything turned black. That moment, in an instant, the last thing I saw was Derek running towards me with a pale face as I fell unconscious. I didn't remember anything after I fainted at the ball. "Lady, quick, hurry and bring a doctor!" Urgent shouting and rushed footsteps could be faintly heard. The fact that I was lying in bed for days suffering just from a small cut on my neck made me laugh. It was as if all the stress I've ignored, due to the fact that I was busy trying to survive, exploded all at once there. I've dreamt of lots of things during those days. I thought I was going to dream about Penelope's past now that I'd become her, but it was all my past that I've dreamt of. It was not too long since the day I entered a high school which only the rich family's kids goes to after I was taken into that house. I was packing my things up after class when someone tapped on my shoulder. "Hey, your brother is searching for you. He told you to come to the gym storage room." He was one of the kids who favored the second bastard, who basically had the central power and controlled the school. I headed to the storage room without thinking much about it. I did notice that the second bastard was sort of involved with bullying in school, but it wasn't that serious to be thinking about. "Brother," I carefully stepped into the storage room, quietly opening the door. I couldn't see anything from the dark. Then something was abruptly put over my head when I was wandering in the place. It seemed like a plastic bag. What me, whose face was covered, was thrown deeper into the storage room, then was beaten up badly. Tens of foots kicking and stepping on me. I didn't have a second to recover consciousness. All I could do at the moment was screaming from all the abuses coming at me while cowering. "Wow, now this is refreshing. Where did this beggar thing even come from? She's not in the level to be attending the same school we go to." "Hey, but aren't we in big trouble if her brother's no nonsense? Her brother hates her to death." I followed my father to a meeting, and she was brought up in their conversation. Their brothers just shivered in disgust. They grinned and said those trashy words while watching me trying to get back to my senses with the energy I have left. Those words hurt more than their actions on me just a moment ago. "Hey, from now on make sure you don't come into our view and don't say a word about today." With that said, I heard the footsteps of people leaving out the storage room. I was lying there on the floor completely still for at least 1 hour after that. It was because I was in so much pain that I couldn't even move. It was long after that when I could barely stand up again. I took the plastic bag off my head and saw both my bag and my uniform ruined. I headed to the washroom and started wiping all the footprints on my uniform until I realized that it wasn't the uniform I should be worrying about. In the mirror I saw blue on my eyes. From that I could know that I was kicked, not only my body but my face as well. A laugh escaped my mouth at the sight of me seeming to say I've been beaten. I didn't remember the feeling of when I was being kicked at because I was out my senses and because my mind was blank then. I trudged my way to that hell-like house. I hated the house so much that I'd rather die than to go in, but there were no place to go to other than that house. I was unfortunate when I entered the house. There had to be my stepdad and my 2 stepbrothers all having a little snack time in the living room at the time when I did. I'm back. Since I wasn't someone who could join them, I hurriedly bowed to greet them and hastily headed to the stairs. "Wait, stop there." Usually they wouldn't care if I came back or didn't, but that day had to continue to be a bad day because the second Batar called me out. "Hey, I told you to stop." I ignored him and continued walking. The second bastard got up from the spot when I did. I was grabbed by the wrist before being able to reach the stairs. "Hey, what's all this? Why do you look like that?" "Nothing much, I just fell," I answered with my head shook. It was intended to hide my blue bruise on the eyes with my hair. "Hey, look at me. Were you beaten up?" "No, like I just said, I fell." "I told you to raise your head." I wanted to go up to my room and rest for today, but he had to block me from doing that and pulled my hair up. "You, what's up with that bruise? Which bastard did this?" "Who in hell?" My messed up face was revealed by the brat's hand. "It's nothing." "Oh, this is nothing." "How is this?" "It's really nothing. Seriously, it's nothing. I told you it's nothing." I think I was out of my mind because I shouted at him, and also shook his hand off me without my wills. Even my stepdad and the oldest stepbrother widened their eyes. It was probably because they've never seen me angry for me to act like so. That moment I thought I couldn't get more miserable than this, the fact that they were having a nice time eating fruits while I was being beaten up in the gym storage room. Since when did you care for me? That view of the three having a family time in the living room when I walked in through the door made me envious, jealous. And me who couldn't join them was, please just leave me alone. Did I ever ask for you to do something for me before? I didn't even do anything, but why are you guys keep? Silence filled the living room that could make one have goosebumps. I always thought that crying meant loss and failure, but I couldn't stop myself that moment. All the tears I held back up until now flooded out my eyes like a waterfall. I cried like a little kid, not knowing what kind of face they made while watching me. A few days later, by the time the bruise on my eyes disappeared, the second bastard came to me and spoke. I caught them all and beat them up until they're half dead. Those were the words he spoke without even saying hi. I already sort of knew from the rumors saying that some of the troublesome kids were hospitalized all at once. Just how much did those bastards look down on you to do that? He muttered, looking at me, who shook my head. Anyways, those things wouldn't happen again, just so you know. Even though I wasn't thankful to the second bastard at all, I became even more isolated in school. Nothing got better, in fact. They'd bully me more sometimes. Thank you, brother. I wanted to scream that it was his fault instead of forcing those thanking words to him. Why do I need to thank you when you're cleaning up your own mess? I just really is what you said it was. But why isn't she waking? Loud shouts were heard, but I couldn't figure who and what they were saying. My head hurt. I opened my eyes that wouldn't easily open. At least do that. Obviously you, along with that insane bastard, the crown prince. So loud someone immediately came to me as I squeezed my voice out. Hey, are you awake? Everything was blurry. I couldn't see the person's face too well, but I could immediately tell who it was thanks to that familiar voice. It was the second bastard from the house. I hate you. I forced my voice out into saying the words I couldn't before. Really, I hate you so much. I hate you 100,000 times more than you hate me. I hate you more than anyone in the world. I closed my eyes, finishing my words, feeling a little refreshed. And I wasn't able to see because I was falling back asleep, the blue eyes trembling like it would during an earthquake, and the pink-haired person as stiff as one can be. I was able to get up after 4 days has passed. Lady, you're okay now, right? The first thing I saw after opening my eyes was Emily with teary eyes. Yeah, I'm fine. That's really fortunate. Do you know how worried I was? His Grace the Duke and the young masters were also really worried about you, lady. Is that so? I replied half-heartedly, because Emily also probably didn't meant any of those she said. Then Emily nodded her head in big motion and spoke. Of course, the first young master was pale when he ran to the mansion with Lady in his arms. My oldest brother did. Yes, His Grace the Duke ordered and brought all the talented doctors in the capital, while the butler was barely able to stop the second young master from leaving to the royal palace. I was quite surprised at her continued words. She might be exaggerating a little, but set that aside. Them giving Penelope a care at all was unexpected. I thought something might happen to you, lady. You must have had a hard time. Emily, a hard time? My foot, don't say that. I'm lady's personal maid. It seemed like quite a lot of things had happened when I was unconscious. My mind was a little blank, staring at Emily because she was the girl who was in tears, mentioning personal maid in front of me when she was also the one who poked me with a needle before. Alright, this is not the time for some chit-chats. I'll be right back. That you lady is now awake. Emily got up from the spot in hurry when I nodded my head and spoke. Bring some melon sherbet on your way. I checked the mirror directly after I got up from the bed. My face looked horrible from 4 whole days of being unconscious. My neck, which was scratched with the crown prince's sword, was wrapped thick and securely with bandages. Why did they wrap it around me so thick? If someone were to see this, they'd think I broke my neck instead of thinking it's just wounded. I felt trapped by these bandages, so I thought of taking them off me, but I decided to just let it be for a little while longer. It was because I thought it wouldn't be that bad to act like a patient for a while. It was around when I was resting on my bed after finishing the clam soup and the melon sherbet that Emily had brought to me. A knocking sound on my room door was heard. Lady, it's Pennell. The visitor was Pennell the butler. He didn't do things such as coming in without knocking anymore after that incident the other day. However, that couldn't stop me from frowning. I thought I told him to let others come to visit me if he had business with me. I sent Emily out my room instead, since I didn't forgive him completely yet. Go and check the reason why he came here. Emily did as told without any further question. What came out her mouth after she came back was unexpected. Lady the butler said that His Grace is calling for you, father. It was not allowed for anyone to deliver the orders from the owner, the main power of this mansion, to the others. I could understand why the butler had to come himself this time for that reason, so I stood up from the bed. Emily, bring me an outerwear. Are you not going to change clothes? Lady Emily asked, as if it was rare for me to not do as so. Currently I was in a white one-piece that I woke up with. It wasn't too formal to wear when seeing an adult. Have you seen a patient dressing up before? I replied, taking the outerwear Emily had brought me. Did he really have to call for me when I only regained consciousness today? It wasn't intended, but it was true that I created an incident at the ceremony in the royal palace. I was punished with timeout last time. I wonder how much I'll be scolded today. If I wanted to avoid at least a bit of the blame for that incident, I had to act as if I'm in pain. Thanks to being unconscious for a while, my face was already like a face of a patient without even me trying to look like one. Phew, my life! I let out a deep sigh as I left the room. The butler, who has been out by my room door for a while, readjusted his posture the moment I came out my room. Shall we go now, lady? Then he set one head on his stomach and reached his other hand out in the direction where we were going to go. What the? It was not like I didn't know the way to where I am supposed to go also. He's never done any of these up before to me up until now. The butler bowed and opened his mouth at my suspecting stare on him. I cannot walk before the master I am serving when I'm a mere servant working here. I searched his face to see if he was trying to fool with me, but there were no traces of insincerity shown on him. Instead, he seemed like a prepared knight who've waited for this moment. Please take the lead, lady. His well-mannered words were heard differently in my ears. I've been waiting for you. I'll be serving the lady well today, just like the owner of a store treating a regular who haven't visited for a long time. The aura of the mansion was noticeably different today. Why is everyone acting like this today? All the servants who used to be busy glimpsing at me were all bowing in manners whenever their eyes met with mine. That time I didn't know that it was all thanks to the butler walking behind me, giving them a warning with his glares. Lady, please wait a moment. It was when I arrived at the door to the Duke's office. The butler, who was silently walking behind me, walked past me to the door. Your Grace, Lady Penelope has arrived. Let her in. The butler opened the door for me also in a very well-mannered way after the Duke spoke from inside. Please head inside, lady. I felt a bit awkward entering the room. It was as if he's been training his manners when I was sick. You came. The Duke was sitting on the sofa today, located on the front side of his work desk. Have you called? I greeted, bowing my head. He nodded at my greeting and gave me his permission to sit. Have a seat. I sat down on the sofa across from where the Duke was sitting. Then in my brain, I went over the excuses I've come up for this conversation. The Duke slowly opened his mouth to speak after a while of silence. The reason I called for you today, father. May I quickly say something first? I quickly cut through his line. Then I stood up from the spot I was sitting on, then kneeled down on the ground next to the sofa. I apologize for everything. This was my plan, apologizing before everything. It seems like I didn't look back on my actions during my time out enough that I caused such a fuss again in the royal ceremony and brought shame to the family. The words I prepared came out my mouth like a spilling water. I mean, would he go far as to kicking his daughter, who just woke up from being ill, out the house when she's confessing like this? No, wait, it seemed like my plan has worked, because the shock he must have felt was noticeable on his face. I'll not dare bring up the words for you to forgive me. I know the best that I'm at fault here. What do you? I'll take on any punishments you give without opposing. So enough. I was about to ask him to spare me a little, but him shouting with his one hand in the air made me shut my mouth before being able to ask that. Penelope Eckhart. The Duke called my name with a low and deep voice. Does not work anymore after I used this strategy once already. I started to feel worried. I replied, gulping, yes, father, rise. Pardon, that was unexpected that I had to question it again when I did. The Duke's one eyebrow flinched. And Eckhart doesn't kneel down on their legs no matter what the reason is, so don't lower yourself so easily like that, Penelope. No one can make you kneel to the ground as long as you're an Eckhart, even though that someone might be one of the royals. The Duke raised his voice when he said the word royal. Following that he commended, if you understand, then rise from the ground right this moment. All right. I abruptly got up from the ground and once again sat on the sofa. My heart beat at the Duke's impressive charisma that I wasn't able to witness while playing the game. Did I say something wrong? I was thinking that when the Duke started speaking again. Penelope, the reason I called for you here is not to scold you or anything, then it was to hear about what happened in the royal palace in more detail. Now tell me what happened between you and the crown prince. I looked back at the time before fainting the other day. At his words I followed the crown prince intending to be killed, then almost got my neck flown off my body from his sword. Then I saved myself from dying by talked about how I liked that insane bastard. I felt chills down my spine thinking about that again. Well, I came up with an excuse, not noticing that the Duke was intensely staring my face, which was getting paler by each moment. I was going to get some fresh air in the maze garden and happened to meet His Highness there, but then it had to be when he was in a bad mood, so it was far different from what had originally happened. It felt like I was becoming into a professional liar since the day I got here, but what else could I do? I cannot speak the truth, and it wasn't all a lie. So the crown prince messed your neck up like that just from him being in a bad mood? Huh, no, not messed up. If it's not messing your neck up, then what's that on your neck? He's not a coyote or anything. But he had to point his sword to a noble girl just because he was in a bad mood. The Duke shouted in anger. For some reason I thought I could hear the crown prince saying things such as "how noisy somewhere." I quickly responded. It was me who got into his nerves in the first place. Good job. Pardon. We could demand the crown prince for a favor, using how he was a harm to you as a threat. You've become a great member of an Eckhart. Penelope. I was about to go crazy at the Duke's unexpected reply. Each time he spoke we needed to take down a peg or two of his someday. Anyway, he became way too prideful after gaining the title as a hero of the war. Father, those were the words that could bring chaos to this family. If anyone else were to hear them, those were an insult to the royals. The Duke continued with his speech as if nothing happened, unlike me who was flustered inside. Penelope, you should know that us Eckharts aren't on anyone's side. We are just sitting on the fence, neutral. Yes, of course. Nope, I didn't actually, not at all. Though that's the case, it's hard to resist anything if we don't have a backup. Her Majesty the First Empress has passed away, and people who supported the Crown Prince have decreased in numbers. The current Empress is the second wife of the Emperor, the second Prince's mother. No one knows who would become the next Emperor at the moment. I didn't know the Crown Prince had this kind of a backstory. It was because that damn game was about nothing but capturing the heart of the male leads. Of course, he had a reason for acting like a mad dog at the banquet. I didn't understand why the Empress and the second Prince sent a murderer to the Crown Prince at first. So you continue to be you onwards as well, said the Duke, put on a smile of satisfaction as he changed the topic of the conversation. You've acted well in this case, so I shall reward you then to punish you. Do you have anything in mind to ask for? A reward? I came here expecting to be punished. I didn't think I'd be rewarded like this. I just sat there staring blankly at him when he slightly nodded his head once. Do you want a jeweler to visit again, or do you perhaps want to throw out all of your dresses and order some new ones since this season's coming to its end? My jaw dropped at the reward options of a different scale of what I could think of. What a windfall. However, Penelope already had so many of both the jewels and dresses of those she bought before that those that the Duke offered weren't really needed. I thought of what I wanted as my reward and soon answered thoughtfully, I'll tell you what I want as my reward later, after giving it some more time to think about it. The Duke and I were finished with our talk, and I just closed the office door behind me when a white box appeared before me out of nowhere. Your fame has been +5 due to the reformation of your relationship with the people working in this mansion. Total 5. A feigned laugh escaped my mouth from the ridiculousness of this situation. Just what did I do for me to earn this? I really didn't try and improve my relationships with the people around me. If I had to think of one thing I did, then it'd be threatening them a little so that they don't look down on me. Was me being wounded a little by the Crown Prince really that of a big deal? I was fascinated by many things flowing in an unexpected way, including the way the Duke acted. While at it, I also somewhat felt a little proud of myself in a way, since be it interest or fame ++ always meant something good here. Great, let's continue with this flow of things onwards as well. Lady, you're back. Emily welcomed me, who just stepped into my room. I nodded my head half-heartedly as I hurried to my desk and sat on the chair. It was because I had a lot to think about besides thinking of what I want as my reward as well. Lady, this Emily followed along and handed something to me. The thing you held against your neck on the day you fell unconscious. The first young master told me to just throw it away, but I washed and kept it just in case. I stared at what Emily handed to me, a white handkerchief. It was the one Binter Verdandi lent me. I totally forgot about it. Thanks, Emily, I complimented Emily, who've done thanks-worth thing. Her expression brightened when I did. The handkerchief that was once soaked in blood was clean white now. I thought of what to do with it as I looked at it. I do need to return the courtesy somehow. It was unwanted care, but I still needed to be polite about it. Besides, there was a need to meet him at least once more, since he was also one of the capture targets. Emily, can you tell the butler right now to bring in a jeweler tomorrow? A jeweler? Emily tilted her head from my request that came out from the blue, then clapped once. Are you planning to buy some new accessories for the upcoming festival? Festival? Emily answered me immediately when I asked in confusion. The festival celebrating for the birth of this country is held next week. I heard that the festival will be held on a much bigger scale due to His Highness the Crown Prince's return. Don't mention the Crown Prince, Emily gasped, her mouth shut from my tone of voice that suddenly turned cold. I was sick of even thinking of the Crown Prince. I motioned my hand, annoyed, towards Emily, who started to study my face. Go to the butler now. Okay, I'll be right back. Emily left, and the silence greeted me in my room. I tapped on the desk with my one finger and got lost in deep thought. So next week's the festival. In the game, the episodes specified for meeting with each of the capture targets are unlocked in an order. For instance, I had to get through with some of the episodes in Reynold and Derek's route for the Crown Prince's route to be unlocked. That's why it was sort of unexpected that I met Binter right away after I met with the Crown Prince. But he was a character I'd meet in the banquet that day anyway, so nothing much changed within the story as it flowed the same up until right now. All that's left now was the last capture target, Eclise the knight, who appears after the meeting with Binter. It was around when the festival took place when the last capture target was brought into the mansion. What did Penelope did during the festival again? In the hard mode of the game, I was only notified that the Duke brought in the new capture target, and was never able to see him. I was too busy dying while playing the episode Festival Day together with either Reynold or Derek. I feel my blood boiling thinking about that again. In the end, the result was I was never able to have even just one single peaceful date at the festival with anyone. I hurriedly opened a drawer and took out a piece of paper I hid before I went through my writing at a fast speed and muttered, I need to get him before the Duke does. I decided on something after almost being killed by the Crown Prince. To finish one route as soon as possible and get out of this damn place. Since I can't try and die anymore, to do that I need to focus on raising the interest of the most manageable capture target. Eclise, my eyes sparked looking at his name written on the paper. I choose you. I was busy exploring the mansion lately. I wouldn't be exaggerating even if I said that the Eckhart mansion was the size of a town. The training area for the knights and their dorms along with a small forest could be seen when you passed the beautifully decorated garden and a wide field of grass. There must be an escape hole somewhere. I was doing this in order to find a secret way out of the mansion grounds before the day of the festival. Though it wasn't easy since this place was so big, I walked back to the gardens with droopy steps after failing to find an escape hole again today. Then I requested Emily for a little snack and tea setup and read a book under a big tree afterward. It was around when the story was reaching its climax I heard a little rustle behind me. Emily, can you hand me a bookmark? I was close to finishing the chapter that I kept my eyes on the book while I reached my hand towards where Emily should be at. No reply came back though, even until I finished the last page of the chapter. Emily. I closed the book and turned my head. Are you okay now? Beside me stood a person holding a tray with some snacks. It wasn't Emily, but someone I didn't expect to see here. Interest 8%. I let out an idiotic sound seeing the interest gauge bar above Derek, who I haven't seen in days. It was at 6% the last time I saw him. I didn't know what caused it to rise. A cool breeze held the faint scent of flowers as it whooshed between me and Derek. My sight was momentarily blocked by my hair fluttering before me, and thanks to that I was able to get back to my senses. I realized that I was idiotically staring up at him, and stood up. Derek stopped me when I did. No, you don't need to get up. It's fine, I was going to go back in now anyways. Then do you not want the desserts? I creased my brows, moving my gaze onto the tray he was holding. It had to be him who brought this out of all the others. Did Emily requested you to do such a thing? No, I told her that I'd bring this to you since I had something I need to talk to you about. With me, what does he who hates Penelope to his death have to say to me? But that curiosity didn't last long as I figured out what he meant. It's about what happened the other day, right? Though the Duke let it be and even gave me a reward, Derek would surely not let go of this matter. Let's just think of this as the continuing of an apology of what I was going to do in front of the Duke. I held back a sigh as I carefully chose my words, then I babbled out the words like a robot soullessly. I apologize that I made a fuss when you told me, especially not to you. Must have been flustered. First, young master, I spoke to father, and told him that I'd give myself a timeout by staying within the mansion grounds. If you think that I deserve a harsher punishment, that's not. He coldly cut through my line. That's not what I was going to say. He was faintly frowning when I took a look at his face. What the it's not? I asked, continuously glimpsing up above his head. Then what? Why did it go back to the first? Young master, pardon, no, never mind, I didn't say that right. Derek changed the topic before I got the chance to figure what he meant by that. I came here to give you this. With one hand holding up the tray, he used his other hand to dig into his breast pocket. My eyes went wide at the thing that Derek was holding out to me. It was a scarf for women, which didn't suit his big hand that well. This is, you can't continue to look like that every place you go now. He muttered coldly, glimpsing at my neck. My neck was still wrapped with bandages so that I looked more like a patient. I must look hilarious like this, but Derek's face was emotionless, without even a hint of a smirk. There are already so many bad rumors of you going around. You don't know that other rumors will form when you go around with a handkerchief a guy you don't even know the name of gave you. Always consider your place in the social circle and the weight you have on your shoulders before taking actions. My jaw dropped while looking back and forth at the handkerchief and Derek. He was talking about the handkerchief that Binter gave me. Derek told Emily to throw it out, but it was washed and nicely stored in the drawer in my room. How did he know that a man gave me this? I felt goosebumps on my arms at his amazing insight and perspicacity. I thought he'd scold me right when he opened his mouth. I didn't know Derek would also be like this. I thought of how I could take this and then spoke. Thank you. I decided to be nice to Derek and tried my best not to make skin contact with him while accepting the scarf, since he hated Penelope so much. It looks pretty expensive. It wasn't wrapped or packed like a gift would be, but I could tell this was expensive just by the texture of the scarf when it was passed onto my hands. I smiled at the gift. I'll use it well. First, young master, I raised my head from the scarf and thanked him. Derek's eyes wavered for a moment, then his expressionless face suddenly stiffened. What's up with him? My heart dropped at his reaction. I was looking anxiously at the interest gauge bat above his head. I forgot something important. He turned his back on me and with quick steps he walked out of the garden with the tray on his hand. Why is he acting like that all of a? My eyes widened while looking at him leaving. Interest 10%. The numbers glowing in white changed above his head. Just what's up with this game? Derek disappeared in seconds, leaving me muttering behind. I couldn't get a hold of what was causing the interests of the sons of this house to rise. Well, it's because I didn't know what caused those interests to rise that I kept on dying in the game. I couldn't help but feel like my days here are gradually differing from the game I've played. Found it. I was finally able to find a secret way out as a result of searching one for days. The wall that surrounded the whole mansion was almost like an iron barrier. Therefore, it was fortunate that I was able to find an escape hole by the knights' training areas, which I think was used when the knights were skipping their training. It was well hidden with the bushes that there would have been no way I could have found it if not for me tripping on a small rock and falling on top of it. Why won't this damn game provide me of any of these things and information? I shook the dust off my clothes, then kicked the rock I tripped on. Afterward, I readjusted the scarf around my neck. I moved on from the bandages to the scarf that Derek had given me. It's fortunate that I found one before tomorrow. Tomorrow was the day the festival begins. I was really anxious up until now. Of course, I would be easily able to leave the mansion for tomorrow if I simply got the permission from either the Duke or Derek. But there's no way that they'd allow a Gongnu to go alone on the streets where it'll be crowded with people from all over the empire. Even more so when I say that I'll be going to the slave market that secretly opens at night time. I'm going through all these to save you, so you better meet my expectations, Eclise. I muttered, staring at the escape hole that I just found. Then I fixed the bush into its original form, which was ruined by me falling on top of it. It was when I got up from the spot finished with fixing the bush. Hey, what are you doing over there? The voice came from behind. I jumped in surprise and turned around. I suspected my eyes after witnessing what was written above the head of a figure. Interest 7%. I haven't seen Reynold in a week yet. His interest has risen 4%. Do these bastards have to not see Penelope at all for their interests to rise? I felt somewhat upset. I didn't know this while playing the game since I had to unlock the episodes to think you could raise their interests this easily. The time I've spent resetting the game was wasted. What are you blankly staring at? I asked you what you were doing. I got to my senses at Reynolds' urging words. I moved my gaze off the interest gauge bar and spoke. You know, just taking a walk, just taking a walk. Reynolds narrowed his eyes at my reply. You had to be taking a walk at where the escape hole is located at. What a coincidence. I was barely able to control myself from gasping out loud. Goosebumps rose on the back of my neck. Just how did that brat realize I covered it well again? I glimpsed at the bush again. There was no difference to how it looked before and after it was messed up. I tried my best to calm myself down as I changed the subject as if nothing had happened. What about you? Why are you here? I was just heading back since I finished today's training. Now that I see Reynolds' pink hair was damp with his sweats, I could sort of see his body through the thin and white training clothing he was wearing. He has some nice body. Unlike his pretty-looking face, his body was hard with muscles which made him look weirdly sexy. Yeah, you want this kind of entertainment too. To survive in this house. I scanned him once more, then spoke in a prim way. Then you go to wherever you're going. I'll continue with my walk too. Then I took some steps forward. I was going to continue to walk away until hey, really know your limits. I heard a voice behind me. I wanted to ignore him, but I had no choice to turn around for his interests. For what, have you already forgotten that 4 years ago you broke your leg, trying to go over the wall like that one knight who was going to skip his training, which caused the walls to be extended higher? It would make over 10 books if you were to write down all the words those knights said to defame you. I knew that the wall surrounding the mansion was taller than I expected. Those things really happened. This kid's really. If it was 4 years ago, it was when Penelope was 14. She would have mastered all the manners by then, even though she started learning manners later than the others have. I started to get annoyed at Reynolds' words that revealed an extreme part of Penelope's past which wasn't mentioned in the game. I'm not doing anything like that. Those words I spoke weren't at all faithful, even for me. Reynolds heard what I said as he spoke with a scary tone of voice. Just get permission from father and leave the mansion confidentially. Don't repeat what you did in the past and get defamed at again. I told you it's nothing like that. He didn't say anything further after my words. Instead, he stared at me in disbelief for a moment longer before he left the spot. I was watching the interest 7% getting further away from me. Quest. Would you like to proceed the quest? Date at the festival with Reynolds. Reward Reynolds interest plus 3% and others. Accept. Reject. As expected, a quest appeared in front of me. I have to do this thing again with that brat, and the reward is only 3% of his interest. I snorted, thinking back to how annoying he was a minute ago. While playing the game, I really wanted that 3% that I accepted the quest. Followed by I had to press the reset button infinite amount of times. What was more upsetting was that I still wasn't able to complete the quest. I'm not doing it. No way. I pressed on refuse multiple times without having to think about it longer. How can I have a successful date at the festival with a guy who growls whenever he sees me? I didn't feel that 3% was wasted. I had 10% and 7% with me already. Besides, I wasn't working my butt off like this to simply have a date at the festival. I glared at the spot where Reynolds was standing before and thought, annoying, hate him. If he said that in such a tone in front of the real Penelope, she would definitely want to give it a try. I threw down the bedcover that I tied into a rope down my room window, muttering the words that I couldn't say in front of Reynolds yesterday. Then I pushed myself up on the window frame using all my strength. That was all I needed to do for me to be out of breath. It was the first day of the festival. I patiently waited until Emily was done with serving me for the day yesterday, then immediately took all the bedsheets I had and tied them together into a rope. It was the most classic way of escaping. Now let's do this. I got up from the window frame after my breathing became steady again. I already prepared for today's day out. I was wearing a thick robe that covered my face and my hair. I also had with me a few gold coins and a check that I got from the Duke as my reward for the incident that happened on the other day. What was left now was to successfully get down from my room, which was located on the second floor of the mansion. Why do I have to go through all this? I complained, looking down from the window, and started taking action. I held onto the rope and slid down it with fast speed. It was only on the second floor. I've concluded that it was possible to safely climb down from my room after wandering around within the mansion grounds a couple of times. I'm sure it was possible. Shoot. The bedsheet I've tied into a rope was shorter than I thought. I couldn't check before as I couldn't see well how long it reached down from my room. I thought it would be fine because the rope was pretty long. I could wake someone up if I were to jump down from this height, and it was possible that I could get injured if I were to make a wrong move. Just realizing that eyeballed length was different from the actual length had made me panic. I looked up to see that the distance from where I was at to my room window was pretty lengthy. I didn't have enough power to climb back up. I was barely holding onto the bedsheet, which was the best I could do. What do? I sniffled at the situation where I couldn't help myself either way. It was then, "Hey you, what are you doing right now?" a voice came from below me. I glimpsed down below me and met eyes with someone. A sound of that person feigned laughing followed after those words. Reynold, his pink hair reflected the moonlight. Reynold was looking up at me from below with the eyes seeming to be looking at a senseless thing. "Why do you come out from there? Are you kidding? The room below your room is my room." I closed my mouth shut. How was I supposed to know that his room was the room below Penelope's? "Are you This is so ridiculous that I can't find the right words to say. Are you trying to escape right now?" "What do you mean escaping?" I was startled at his question. "I was just going to go out for a walk." To walk seems like it's a trend nowadays for the girls your age to climb a wall when you're going out for a walk. I couldn't find the right words to reply with, so I stared far into the mountains instead. However, there was one thing that I've forgotten from panicking. It was that my arms reached its limits to hold on for any longer. All the strength left me at that moment. As I slid down the rope, I shouted, grabbed onto the end of the rope just before completely falling down to the ground. I was now clinging on to the end of the rope, swinging side to side like a spider climbing its one strand of the web. "Hey then," Reynolds shouted as he climbed up his window frame at a fast speed. His face when he jumped out from his window looked a little pale. "Let go," Reynolds, who was now standing on the ground outside, said as he opened his arms. "What? Let go and jump down to where I'm standing. I'll catch you." That moment I was barely able to keep myself from saying, "How am I supposed to trust you? If you don't want to, then you can just continue to cling on to that." My hesitation didn't last long. At his next words, I had no other choice. "Please don't miss me, catch me well." I ordered. He wouldn't purposely let me die, though. I'm his hated little sister, right? I was finally able to let go of the grip after thinking that over and over again to convince myself that I'd be fine. I felt the immense wind blow past my cheeks just when I started to feel butterflies in my stomach, like when you ride a roller coaster. "Caught you!" I opened my eyes to see Reynolds smirking like a devil would. "Put me down." I realized that my face was really close with his and hurried down from his arms. Reynolds asked while I was fixing the robe I was wearing, "Where are you planning to go?" "Just for if you say that you're going out for a walk again, then I'm heading for father right away." I glared hatefully at the brat who cut through my line. Why did I have to get caught by him out of all the other people here? It's still better than having to be caught by Derek. I heard that the best time to be enjoying the festival was when it's dark out, and that seemed to be right because the streets were already crowded with people. The busy street was decorated with fancy lanterns and various stands. I've seen lots of these sorts of festivals before coming to this world, so I was quick to walk past everything disinterested. "Hey, are you sure that you came to enjoy the festival?" Reynolds asked, finding this rather weird for something that Penelope would do. I glimpsed over at him once before answering him half-heartedly. "I am enjoying it. You're not even asking to buy anything for you. You usually go mad when you see accessories," he commented, pointing at the stands selling kinds of stuff for girls. "Then did you actually think I came out here just to have fun at the festival with you?" I stared at him for a moment, then speechlessly turned back. Honestly speaking, nothing came into view, be it the whole festival, or whatever. I was way too conflicted because I didn't know where to start looking for replies. "Hey, come here for a minute." Just then Reynolds caught me by my hand and dragged me somewhere. Derek wordlessly followed behind the two of us. "Look, they sell some fine things here." The place Reynolds led me to was one stand that sold some jewels. "My welcome. Take a look, dear customers. A lot of new things have arrived for today from the east." I stared blankly at the man as I was confused about what I was doing right now. "When I did," Reynolds shouted at me in frustration. "He told you to take a look around already." I looked at the jewels at his words. Those certainly were some very unique-looking jewels that seemed like it could be seen only during the time of the festival. However, I didn't feel the want to buy any of these. Penelope's jewelry box was already overflowing with accessories. I lost my interest in them real quick. But then this looks fine. An arm reached out from behind me. Derek then picked one accessory up. It was a bracelet made of platinum string and with little jewels in the color of a well-ripened plum hanging. Goodness, I knew you had a great taste on these things, mister. To tell you about this bracelet, it took 3 months of a full day and night using the rare jewels found only in that mine over there in the east. The stand owner started spitting out those words. While literally spitting, I felt a bit weird staring at the bracelet that Derek was holding. It was because I felt that the jewel's color was similar to those of my hair. Hey, no way he'd give that to me. I looked up at the 10% and thought, then this one for me. It seemed like Reynolds was about to pay any minute, so I hurried and picked up a thing that interested me. The stand owner who once babbled about the bracelet shut his mouth close this time. Are you serious? Reynolds formed a deep frown on his face while looking down at what I was holding. It was the same for Derek. Yes, this mask, what I chose, was a white mask that's been set far in the corner. Only the eyes and the mouth part, which was curved upwards into a smiling face, were the places that were carved through. It reminded me of a haho mask. Thinking about it, there was no way they'll let a little girl like me get into the slave market even though I wore a robe. Therefore it was a reasonable and clever decision to make. I'll buy this. Hey, I wanted to ask you this for a while now, Reynolds asked with serious look on his face in response to my conclusion. Are you not well these days? I'm asking you if you suddenly feel dizzy at times, or your mind goes blank to find yourself in a different place later when you get back to your senses, or anything like that. Just say so if you don't want to buy me this thing. No, it's not that I don't. You're saying you really want this thing. Yes, I ended up shouting at Reynolds, who was asking me the same question repeatedly. He looked at me in disbelief but ended up paying for the mask as well. Just then a noise came from the distance. I turned around to see a group of people going down the streets in costumes. The fireworks started, which made the street even crazier with people. It was the start of the parade. People came out from everywhere to see the parade. I was continuously bumped by the rushing people. Hold on, a sleeve that looked like it was a part of some fancy clothes came reaching out for me from the front. I looked up and found Derek looking down at me with an emotionless face. Thank you, I really thought I was going to be washed away by all these people, so I hurried and grabbed onto his sleeve. But it seemed like I've grabbed onto the wrong place on it because something rattled at the part one was gripping on. It was then when the parade people went past us I gripped onto Derek's sleeve as tightly as possible so that I wouldn't be washed away. However, Penelope, Derek's panicking face gradually moved further away from me with the sound of something snapping. No, I was transferred somewhere by all these moving people and was just barely able to get away from them a while later. When I regained my senses, I realized that I was in the corner of a creepy and dark alleyway, with only a golden button that snapped off of Derek's sleeve and a mask that Reynolds got for me in hand. Where am I? I furrowed my eyebrows while looking around me. That moment a white box appeared in front of me from nowhere, and the episode The Unlucky Slave from a Defeated Country Eclipse has begun. Would you like to go to the slave market? Yes, no, my jaw dropped. Suddenly, thanks to this, I was able to start Eclipse route, which I thought wouldn't happen from those two following me. I was transported to the entrance of the slave market immediately after I pressed yes. It was a really shabby building, so you couldn't even have guessed this would be the right place. I saw a few people lining up at the entrance. Each one of them had a mask on. Knew it. I was clever to buy this. It wasn't fancy at all, unlike the ones that the other nobles wore, but it didn't matter as long as it hid my face. I put on the mask and lined up behind those people. I didn't forget to check the robe so that my hair color wouldn't show. It wasn't too long after when it came to my turn. Please show me your invitation. A large man reached his hand out to me. You need an invitation to this thing? I was flustered. I didn't expect that you needed an invitation to be able to get in. You didn't inform me about any of this, you crazy game. The man frowned scarily as I panicked without giving him a reply. Don't you have an invitation? This place only operates for the people with memberships, so you cannot enter without an invitation. Now then, wait, an idea popped up in my head when he said the word membership. I hurriedly dug my hand into my one pocket. Here, what I handed to the big dude was the button from Derek's sleeve. The symbol of the Eckhart family was carved clearly on the button. The man's eyes widened when he saw the button in my hand. If it's about my invitation, I forgot it at home. This will do. No, I didn't notice such a high and noble person welcome in. He rushed and made a way for me to enter. I walked in ever so casually, but I was surprised inside. This is how powerful the Duke family is, or maybe even more so, of course. You never knew if this trick worked, from the Duke being the VIP guest who comes sometimes to get some useful slaves. This whole slave thing was bitter to think about for me. I'll escort you to the auction. A server in charge of escorting people in came to greet me by the entrance, and led me in. I followed him down the small stairs from behind. How long has passed since then? The stairs came to its end when an area with a dim light coming from it could be seen. Soon I've arrived at a vast and luxurious space that I wouldn't believe that I was in that shabby building I saw earlier. This vast place was hidden here all along. The large hall was decorated like a coliseum so that you could look down at the stage from the grand seats. Have a seat here and take this. The servant took me to the very front seat where you can see the stage the best, then left after handing me a picket. The picket was for the auction. I sat in my seat looking down at the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the auction is finally starting. The auction started not long after the chained slaves walked up the stage after the auctioneer's loud announcement. 10 gold, 10 gold. Is there anyone else sold with 10 gold? The slaves all wore a gloomy face as they were sold to the nobles. Each slave's worth got better than the ones sold before them, as some of them started to do some fascinating tricks, and some of them had an incredible appearance. 100 gold, 100 gold. Is there anyone else? 102 gold. It soon became a battlefield in here, with all the people reading others' face and the atmosphere. And finally, everyone, now's the time you've all been waiting for. Coming up the stage right now is today's last slave. I, who was stared at the stage in disinterest up until now, straightened my body up at the last slave going up the stage, a barbarian from a defeated country. I introduced the slave Eclise. Grayish-brown hair, he was handcuffed, and his mouth was also covered shut, yet his eyes shined sharply at the audience as it was Eclise. Everyone here must have heard the rumors about this slave, right? The auctioneer smiled and said. I didn't hear any rumors about Eclise, however all the others seemed to know as they nodded their head. But there's always a large difference from what the rumors say and when you see for yourself. That's why we hosted a special event for our audiences. Have a look. One servant threw something at Eclise with the hand motion of the auctioneer. It was a small wooden sword that kids used when they learned swordsmanship for the first time. What are they up to? I tilted my head in curiosity. When I did, the sound of a cage sliding open was heard from one corner. Hyenas jumped up the stage, 5 of them at that. What is that? What are they? I was shocked at the sight. The hyenas walked around Eclise, who was standing still in the spot, and drooled as if they've starved for days. Both his arms and legs were cuffed. Large movements were restricted from it. A small wooden sword was all that was given to him. Adding to that, all he was wearing was a piece of clothing that covered his lower body. No protection at all. That's just too much. My heart dropped. It was as if their intention was for Eclise to be eaten by those starved beasts. What should I do? I started to think if I should shout out that I'd buy him before anything happens. Just then the largest hyena jumped for Eclise at the same time. Eclise lowered and rolled his body over to the wooden sword and stabbed it in that hyena's one eye at a lightning speed. He finished off by giving the hyena a good kick. The hyena cried and fell to the floor. It soon lost its consciousness, as it was now motionless. Growled. The remaining hyenas jumped for Eclise all at once after that. I let out a short scream. He was able to fight them one by one, but I was sure it would be too much to handle a lot of them all at once. However, it turned out that all my worries were for naught. Eclise dodged hyenas' sharp claws and teeth with his restricted movements, and fought them off. With just a wooden sword, 2 more hyenas were down in seconds. Only 2 were remaining. One hyena aimed for Eclise's back when he was busy fighting the one in front of him. Eclise twisted the neck of the hyena he was fighting and quickly turned around to face the other one. Then he stabbed the hyena in its stomach. With that wooden sword that's not sharp at all. The last hyena dropped to the floor bleeding, leading to the end of the fight. Blood dripped down the hands of Eclise, whose shoulders were heaving. Silence filled the space. Then one by one people started to give their applause. Thank you, the auctioneer announced the end of the show. Eclise went hyper after seeing blood and kept on swinging his sword though the fight ended. He swung his sword dangerously at the people approaching him to restrain him, but he flinched as he fell unconscious before he was able to strike them. Then he was dragged off the stage. It seemed like they attached something to him, probably to prevent the slaves from acting out. Haha, he's quite an energetic one. It's hard to control him in a normal way. The auctioneer laughed and calmed the startled audience down. Now then, shall we go nice and easy and start the bid with 50,000 golds? 50,000. The auction for Isekai officially started. The starting budget for him was already on a different scale. I got nervous as I focused on the auction. 60,000, 90,000, 100,000. I see 100,000. The price of Isekai increased rapidly. At this rate, I expected the price to easily reach 10 million. 200,000. I see 400,000 over there. Thankfully, people willing to get Isekai started decreasing in numbers as time went by. There weren't too many people willing to buy a slave who came from a defeated country with over 500,000 golds. Especially when he was too wild to be used as a night partner. Unless there are people insane enough that'd do that. 500,000, 600,000. I see 600,000. You could afford a small house with that many golds. Now there were only two people still betting. I couldn't see their face because of their mask, but I could tell that one was an old woman with wrinkles all over her neck while the other was a fat man. Their keenly half-closed eyes sparked in greed. I could tell the reason why they wanted Isekai from that. 900,000. The old women raised 300,000 more to the precious price, which made the price now 900,000 golds. 10 million. It's now 10 million. However, the fat man didn't back down. The auctioneer's jaw dropped as he moved his gaze to the old woman. The woman seemed like she gave up though, because she threw the picket to the floor in anger. 10 million. Is there anyone else? 5-4. The countdown started. I cautiously looked around me. It was to check if there were anyone else who looked like they were going to challenge the fat man. 3-2. I finally raised my picket in the air when I realized that there wasn't going to be anyone who would bet higher than that. 100 million, 100 million. Dead silence. If there existed a sound for people turning to look at me, then I'm sure it was going to be really noisy. When the auctioneer's jaw dropped again, he tripped on his words a couple of times as if he couldn't believe what he just heard, then soon shouted in joy, 100 million. She said 100 million. Is there no one else? There was no way there'd be someone else. Even if there was, it wouldn't have mattered. That was because from the start I already decided that I'd shout out 10 times the number that the last bettor shouted. My life depended on this, even if it wasn't 100 million but 10 billion. My eyes met with his when I called his name. His eyes sparked dangerously. I could tell that he was going to try and kill me immediately after the pain disappears. I couldn't bring him to the mansion if he was going to keep acting like that. I bit on my lower lip deep in thought, then took the mask off of my face with my free hand. Look at me, Isekai. I couldn't think of another way to calm Isekai down other than this. I could only hope for him to face the facts. Look at the face of your owner who bought you with 100 million golds. My face, which was covered with a mask all along, was revealed. His gray eyes widened instantly. Probably because of Penelope's breathtakingly beautiful and alluring face, which didn't go well with a place like this. I didn't waver at all when I continued to stare straight at his eyes. It's not that I had money to burn that I bought you with that price. Not a single noble, no matter how insane they are, would spend 100 million golds on a mere slave who came from a defeated country, you know. It was true, judging how no one bought a slave spending over even 10 million golds during the auction. You could build a castle in a suburb at the capital of the country with 100 million golds. Say that you escaped by being rebellious and by acting out, but what can you after that? You don't even have a country now to go back to. Isekai clenched his teeth as if I touched a nerve in him. He struggled to get out from my grip, but that only made me apply more strength into my arms and raise it up again. I stared down at him. I really hate those stupid people who don't know their place. I saw a possibility in you and willingly paid that price. That's all there is between me and you. I didn't only spend an extreme amount of gold on him, he doesn't know what I've been through just to get him. Therefore you'll have to prove to me what you're worth so that those 100 million golds that I spent on you does not go to waste. If not, I'll just ruthlessly send you back here. You got that? I asked, my eyes shining dangerously honestly. Even I didn't expect for me to go this far. I didn't know I was this desperate to survive through this insane game. If I wanted him to calm down, there was no other way than to coldly make him accept the reality. That he was no longer a noble in his country, but a mere slave to be sold. Iseikai's eyes wavered. He seemed to have realized that I didn't buy him just to toy him around for pleasure. Nod your head if you understand I need to hurry back home. We stayed like this for a while until he nodded his head just barely enough for me to notice it. Thankfully there were no changes to his interest gauge bar. That was more than enough for me, miss. Are you hurt anywhere? The auctioneer hesitantly walked up to me when I rose back up with the mask on my face again. It seemed terrified as he held a whip in his hand. Hey, yes, Dee, do you have something you'd like to say? I motioned my head towards Aclies, who tottered to stand up. Undo the cuffs. What? Take off the cuffs, but miss, this slave is. Get rid of everything restricting him except for the choker on his neck and the handcuffs. I'm going to take him home myself, having no other choice. The slaver gave one of the workers signal with his eyes. Aclies soon became free except for the hands. The workers and the slaver backed off immediately, but Aclies didn't do anything but just stood there. And you, I pointed at one worker who whipped Aclies most willingly. Me, take off everything you're wearing now, except for your underwear, and hand them all over to him. I threw a money bag with some gold coins in it at them. Do it quick. The once half-naked slave was soon in a shape where he could wander around outside. It was almost the end of midnight when I came out of the shabby building. I was very tired from spending the whole night with my guards up. A deep sigh escaped my lips as I looked up at the sky. I went through a lot to get here, but I had no idea how I was going to go back. Just follow me for now, I said, glimpsing at Aclies, who was standing behind me. He didn't say anything back. It was an impertinent thing for a slave to do, but I didn't have the energy to correct his actions, so I just let it be. I led Aclies and entered the closest alleyway by that shabby building. I was going to head for the largest streets that way. I can ask for directions from a passerby. It was when I just turned the corner of the tortuous alleyway. Over there, look, they came out. A group of people who were standing in a distance from us all came rushing up to us. They blocked the small path of the alleyway. Well, hello, a man who I didn't know walked up to me through the crowd. He was short but fat, who I set my guards up high and questioned. When I did, the man smirked in disbelief and let out a faint laugh. You don't know who I am, huh? How am I supposed to know who you are? I'm that person who all people call their hope. Clury Master, the servant, came rushing out and blocked the fat man who was about to spit out his identity. Lady, it was already morning by the time I arrived at the Eckhart mansion with Aclies. The butler and Emily came running to me as soon as they spotted me. Lady Penelope, just where did you go in the middle of the night? Emily shouted and asked. When the butler couldn't continue with his words from their reaction, I realized that secretly bring Aclies in was impossible. Does father know too? Of course, everything was a mess. The young masters both went out with the knights in attempt to find you while a slaver came by in the middle of the night. I slapped my forehead at Emily's words. That slaver bastard who suspected my identity came to get paid as soon as the sun rose. Before I even did, and to think that Derek and Reynold would go and do all that. Shoot, I shouldn't have brought those two with me. Emily didn't waste a single second as she pushed me in through the gates. Quickly go in, lady, hurry, lady. Who is that? The butler blocked Aclies, who was following me into the mansion. He's going to be my personalized bodyguard from now on. Show him to a room and prepare it so that he can rest there. Lady, that's butler freaked out, scanning Aclies from head to toe. You can't do that, lady. How can we allow someone we don't know the identity of into the manse? Butler, only a few days passed from that day, but it looks like you already started to take my words as a joke again. I was very tired, therefore very sensitive. I wanted to throw myself on the bed right away, but there were mountains of things I had to deal with beforehand. I didn't have the time to argue with the servants here. I ask you to prepare it well so that it's comfortable to Aclies. Understood, lady. The butler bowed, having no other choice. After I ask you was a threat. But thankfully it ended before I had to threaten him. It was when I stepped into the entrance. Hey, you, Reynold, who was pacing back and forth, was the first to notice me. The Duke, who was sitting abruptly, got up from his chair at Reynold, shouting, Penelope, father. I unwillingly took a few steps back at the Duke's sharp gaze. The Duke seemed like he was going to shout at me like Reynold did, but held it back. Instead, come to my office now. A huge sigh escaped my lips as I watched the Duke leave. How should I beg for forgiveness this time? All this just so I could get Aclies. I turned to face Aclies in resentment, but that resentment melted in me as soon as I read what was above his head. Interest 18%. I had to contain myself, he was the only hope I had with me. Meanwhile, Reynolds spotted Isekai standing behind me as he muttered in detest, "What's that beggar doing here?" "Follow the butler, Isekai," I hurried and commanded, scared that this would turn into a fuss. "Follow the butler, my foot, this is the Eckhart mansion." Reynolds made a face that looked as if he had a lot to say right now. But he didn't continue, probably because he knew that I had to get to the Duke's office right away. The same went for Isekai. He opened his mouth, seeming as if he wanted to say something but didn't. "Hurry up, be a good boy." I ignored that he wanted to say something. I didn't have time for that right now. I handed the mask I held in my hand over to Emily, then followed after the Duke, who left a little while ago. Click! A cold and sharp voice pierced my ears as soon as I stepped into the office. "Penelope Eckhart." "Yes, father." I politely stood in front of him. The Duke was sitting, his back facing the desk, started explaining everything from the very beginning to the end. The Duke's heavy tone of voice was as cold as ice. I couldn't see his face from here, so I became less confident if I can get away with this successfully. I didn't care if my fame dropped from it as long as it didn't affect the interests of the two brothers. Thinking hard for a while, I decided to try the method I've used up until now. "I apologize for going outside without even telling you, father. Those are the words I hear the most from you these days." It worked for the first and the second time, but not for the third. I was lost for words. "You always apologize like this, but it seems like you didn't really look back to it. What do you think?" That's I bit my lower lip and said the words that the Duke always wanted from Penelope. "I swear I didn't do anything to bring disgrace to this family, father. I didn't stay up all night waiting for you just to hear those kinds of words." The Duke slammed his fist on the table. As soon as I finished my words, I gasped in the air in surprise. He was always ignorant towards Penelope, so this was the first time ever seeing the Duke get angry like this. I got scared at this unexpected reaction. What am I supposed to do? My mind went blank. I already expect that just apologizing wouldn't work this time. "Derek," it was the Duke who stopped Derek from scolding me any longer. "What are you doing, being rude to just burst in here without knocking when I'm talking to her?" Derek's eyes wavered for a split second. He let go of my shoulders and backed up a step. Then he bowed to the Duke. "I apologize, father, my shoulders hurt a little." I rubbed my one shoulder with my hand as I watched Derek. "What the why won't he leave?" Derek stood beside the desk and stared at me as if it was the most obvious thing to do. It was the same with the Duke. They both looked willing to hear me out. "Now there's another one I have to deal with," I sighed mentally. "All right. I get what you tried to do," the Duke said after clearing his throat once. It was fortunate that the excuse I've thought up beforehand seemed reasonable enough to him. But his questioning didn't end there. "But if that was the case, you could have just set him free after you bought him. Why did you bring him here?" "Isekai is very skilled at martial arts, father. That's one reason why I bought him with such a price." I started spitting out all the words of excuses that I've prepared to say. "I wish for you to accept Isekai as a knight in training. He seemed quite useful as our family's knight, yes. I believe it'll be more beneficial to officially train him rather than to make him a servant here where he cannot show off his." I can't stand hearing more of this. Derek cut through my line. "There's an overflowing number of people who are grateful just being able to work in this mansion as a servant. But right now you're suggesting that we train someone who's not even a commoner, but a slave. Besides, what are you going to use him for if he's been trained?" The Duke also seemed to be agreeing with Derek. "Stop getting in the way and just leave already." I suppressed the tiredness I was feeling and answered. "I'm going to use him as my personal bodyguard." "Your personal bodyguard? I can't forever wander around having not a single bodyguard to guard me." The Duke's eyes widened a little. "What do you mean by you don't have anyone guarding you? There are over 20,000 knights working in the Eckhart grounds." "Yes, but I also know that I have a bad reputation among the knights, father." "Isn't that why you didn't make any of them as my bodyguard?" The two both closed their mouths shut. Every noble lady had at least 5-6 bodyguards with them. The number of bodyguards for a noble lady increased from there depending on her family's noble rank. When I asked Emily about it, she answered that Penelope didn't have a single bodyguard. If she had to go out somewhere, a knight who had nothing to do would come with her, but that was all. Just how bad did people think of her? I was just guessing when both of them went speechless. That made me go speechless too for a moment. I don't want to entrust my safety to those people who are not willing to protect me. It's not guaranteed that what happened to me today won't happen again after leaving this place. Leaving, they both shouted almost at the same time. What do you mean by that? Leaving, I mean, the Duke asked in an urgent voice. It's just as what I said, I'm an adult now. My eyes widened again at their reaction, then shrugged. Please allow me to choose my bodyguard myself for my safety. I beg you, father, brother. I shook my head. The two didn't say anything to refuse. More like couldn't than didn't. What happened today wasn't entirely my fault. It was a big problem if there weren't a single knight worried enough to willingly follow their master going somewhere alone. Especially when that master's a member of this powerful Duke family that can affect the country. To be honest, I wasn't doing this just to get a knight to guard me. I only needed an excuse for Eclise to stay at the mansion. First, fortunately, my plan worked all right. You must have had a tiring night today. Go up and get some rest now. I'll tell a doctor to come to check on you after you get some sleep. Thank you, father. I didn't need a doctor to check on me since I wasn't hurt anywhere, but I didn't argue any longer. Then I bowed once and walked to the door. And Derek, you stay, the Duke added just when I stepped out of the office. I glimpsed behind me to see Derek by the door, as if he was following me out. Just what's up with this dude? I hurriedly closed the door to the office. What else did he want to scold me for that he'd want to follow me? The door I closed didn't open back. I was finally able to let out a sigh of relief. But then a white box appeared before me. Date at the festival with Derek. Quest failed. Try again. Reward Derek's interest plus 3% and others. Accept or reject. What? No, never. There were still many days left until the festival ended. However, I clicked on reject as there was absolutely no way I'd go to see the festival with him again. I continued to stare at the disappearing white box, feeling unfair. Of course, that wasn't what actually happened. One of the worst things can happen when a feeble noble lady goes in an alleyway without a single guard. Do you get it? The reason why I'm going to use Eclise as my bodyguard. Sorry for worrying you, brother. With that said, I walked past Reynold, who was stiff on the spot, to the stairs. Eclise was emotionless, and Emily was looking at the ground when they followed my back. Another term for hatred could be onlooking, the people working here who only watched Penelope from afar when she could be in danger anytime. There was no way I could think of them in a good light. I couldn't also when I thought of me and what I'd been through before coming to this world. I was walking up the steps. Date at the festival with Reynold. Quest fail. Try again. Accept or reject. I clicked on reject straight away. Eclise followed me like a puppy through the hall until I got to my room. Emily freaked out when he tried to follow me in my room, so I opened my mouth. Until where are you planning to follow me? Eclise was blocked by me from coming in. But he tilted his head, then spoke without much hardship. You told me to prove my worth. I was a little dumbfounded at his reason for acting so well up until now. Seems like he really hates the idea of going back to the slave market. Then I spotted the yellow marble on the choker he was wearing. The ring. That was when I was reminded that I had a tool I could use to suppress him. The excitement I felt when I saw interest 18% was gone as my head cooled down. It was still fresh in my mind, the sight of him killing people after breaking the cuffs in one go. The polite and well-mannered knight who showed up in the normal mode, who was still loyal to Penelope till the end even when he knew that his master was like a villain. However, Eclise, who wasn't yet trained, was even more dangerous than I had expected. I came to think that maybe the choker was the reason behind his loyalty towards Penelope. I can't be fooled by his innocent-looking face. He's a guy who beat up all those hyenas with just a wooden sword. I opened my mouth after reminding myself not to be fooled. That doesn't include you being my night partner. Then you heard the conversation, didn't you, that I brought you here in order to use you as my bodyguard? Yes, Eclise nodded. It's your first mission to make all the people here to accept you in this mansion. Mission? Yeah, I can't forever keep on arguing with people to let a useless one in the mansion, you know? I said in a cold tone, and it was when I realized that it sounded so half-heartedly. Therefore I added, I trust that you won't disappoint me, right? Eclise slowly nodded his head at my question. I thought I saw his gray eyes sparkle. Interest 20%. Note, his interest percentage changed just then. It was now closer to 30% of interest, which is where all the male leads' interests start at in the normal mode. When will I be able to get it up to 30%, and when will I be able to get it up more to see the ending? I felt tired of everything, thinking about how I still had a long way to go. Emily escorted Clyde to the room that the butler has prepared for him. Yes, lady, just then master, a dry tone of voice pierced my ears. I'll do my best to be complimented by you. Then I held a hand up and patted his currently dirty hair. Clyde rubbed his head against my hand as if he was waiting for this, but that still didn't make the fears I felt for him to completely go away. Nevertheless, the hope of getting out of this place, I'm really happy that it was master who got me out of there, master, made me determined and willing to make my next move. I didn't come out of my room, my excuse for it being that I was going to go for a self-timeout after I brought Clyde in this mansion. Derek and the Duke didn't kick Clyde out this mansion after hearing my false explanation that day. They also didn't do anything about me staying in the room, not showing my face for days. But I heard from Emily that the Duke was searching through each noble family for any person with the name Cleary in their full name, which made the chills go down my spine. Not only that, but I also heard that the training time and its difficulty for the knights have increased all of a sudden. There's no way he'd go finding that pig. There wouldn't be much problem even if he did, but I felt weird because the thing seemed like it was flowing rather strangely. Whatever, I threw the book I had in my hands, then just flopped onto the bed. The warm sunlight at noon came through the window and shined in the room. Thankfully, a short period of peaceful time to relax was granted to the poor me after clearing an episode rescuing Clyde. No one bothered me even if I slept and ate and read books for the whole day. Timeout is always the best. I wanted Derek to put me on timeout until I'm able to see an ending if possible. They wash my clothes, clean my room, give me food when it's time. This is like a dream. Knock knock, lady, are you still lying on your bed? You should get up now. It's time for lunch. What's for lunch? I lied in bed and looked at Emily coming into my room with a tray. It's pumpkin salad and fried chicken legs, is that all? I didn't try and hide my disappointment. I told the cook about how you wanted to eat something spicy, and he said that he specially invented this sauce. Really, I got up from the spot in excitement. I've been repeating the words spicy chicken leg in front of Emily for days, and it seemed like those words finally reached the cook's ears. Goodness, I feel like your taste has changed in food. You didn't even look at strong-flavored foods before. Emily tilted her head in wonder while she set the plates on the table. Though she hated and looked down on Penelope, she did work as Penelope's maid for years. She seemed to be finding it strange that the one she's served has changed in some ways. They say that people's taste in food changes as they grow up, true? Emily nodded, then she dropped the topic as she told me, go ahead, lady. Emily, who doesn't play tricks on food anymore, started separating the meat from the bone on the plate. Thanks to that, I didn't need to do that myself. How is it? Chew the food well before swallowing. Even while separating the meat from the bone, Emily didn't forget to check on me from time to time. I came to wonder if she was that maid from before at her wholehearted serving. But even so, I didn't let my guard down. She wouldn't be able to guess even in her dreams that I'm still keeping an eye on her while eating. Anyways, this should be sweeter. It's not the taste of that spicy sauce I ate back then. I was able to relax completely on eating after I was certain that nothing was wrong with this food. What I wanted was the spicy chicken I ate with my friends sometimes. The cook's spicy chicken was really just fried spicy chicken. I should start saying sweet salty now in front of Emily. It wasn't the desired flavor, but still ate it as I liked the spiciness that I haven't eaten for a long time. I'm full now. I set down the fork when Emily immediately took the plate away and set the dessert down. The festival's coming to an end now, lady, Emily said to me, who was eating the melon sherbet. Is it? Yes, you'd always go out on the festival days and brought in some new unique jewels each time. Were there none of them that caught your eyes this time? I don't know. I was too focused on a certain something that time that I didn't even get to see what was there at the festival. Now that I think of it, I remember Reynolds saying something like that too. Seemed like Penelope really did go mad when it came to jewels. What a diligent customer she was to a lot of stores. I already felt tired just by imagining her visiting from stores to stores buying jewels. Right, the butler said that the thing you ordered from a jeweler through the butler has arrived. Orders? What do you remember when you called for a jeweler before the festival started? Now I remember. I totally forgot about it until now. Should I bring them right now? Emily asked, seeing that my face was getting serious as each moment passed. I lightly nodded my head, yeah, right away. Emily came back soon after she left with a box in her hand. The pretty velvet-colored box looked luxurious. I took the box and opened it right away. Wow, the color's so pretty, Emily said in fascination when the circular ultramarine blue gem was revealed from the box. Lapis lazuli usually had a hint of gold and white parts to it. It was more valuable when the color got deeper into blue and when lesser of those gold and white colors were included in it. I checked it out by spinning the box in my hand, but not a single white or gold parts were spotted in a deep blue gem. I like it, I put on a satisfied smile as I set the box down on the table. It was worth the money after all. Are you going to give this as a gift to His Grace, lady? Emily asked, still looking at the cuff button with a circular lapis lazuli planted in it. There's no way I'd give it to the Duke. I answered her question no, and requested, can you bring any one of the jewelry boxes? I own a jewelry box. Of course. Lady Emily seemed curious about what I was going to do, but did as requested without further question. Take a moment later, Emily set down a big and heavy-looking wooden box on the desk. I stared down at it for a little while, making it look like I was thinking of something. Before speaking at the right timing, I have something I'd like to ask someone to do something for me. What is it? Do you by any chance know anything about the informant at the upper portion of the streets? An informant, Emily muttered, then spoke. I don't know much about it, but my roommate probably does. She worked at the upper portion of the streets before she came to work here. Is that so? I paused for a moment before continuing. What's her name? Her name's Rena. Where is she right now? But I can do this better than Rena can, Lady Emily added. Sure, she knows a lot, but she also has a big mouth, she said as she studied my face. She seemed scared of being pushed away if I called that other maid over. Emily, this job needs to be secretly and sincerely done. The person will also need to act depending on each situation. The real reason why I chose to keep Emily as my personal maid was so that I could leave these sorts of things to her. There was no one more suitable for the job than Emily was in the first place. You despised me so much before, however, I purposely tried to make her feel more worried to warn her once. And how could I possibly trust someone who despised me? Lady Penelope, it was a topic that I haven't brought up for a long time. Emily's face turned pale in seconds as if she remembered the past. I never thought badly of you after that time, Lady. I tried my best and served you the best I could. Anyone at the mansion could say the same thing, Emily. Emily stopped talking at my cold words. She thought a little and said, you know that I'm sharp with taking a hint and acting depending on the situation, lady. I was amazed by how fast she realized that whining wouldn't work on me, and changed her plan to trying to prove what she can pull off. Quite amazing. I noticed from long before that Emily was smarter and sharper than the other extras here, and seeing it now proved that she certainly is. That's also probably why she had the idea to abuse Penelope with a needle. Emily tried to convince me with a desperate face on. Think about it. I never once failed to do what you told me to do. So please leave it to me. I'm your personal maid after all. There was a long silence after that. Tap tap. The only sound in the room now was my finger tapping on the desk. Before all the hope escaped from the uneasy maid. Okay, I accepted. I'll try trusting you this time. Lady Emily looked at me with a touched face. I never thought that she saw me in a good light after I threatened her with the needle. But thinking that one's trust is about to leave for another makes someone vow their loyalty to the one. Thank you, lady. I'll never disappoint you. I half-heartedly nodded at Emily, bowing at me. Open the jewelry box. She moved instantly after I commanded. From now on until my time out is over, you go to the informants after the morning serving. Then you'll request them to find a person for me. A person? Who are you looking for? I'll write down all the things about him that they need to know to be able to find him. All you need to do is just show that paper to them. You can use how many of the jewels in that jewelry box that you need to pay them. There was the overflowing amount of jewels in the box. Unfortunately, Penelope didn't have much money, so the only thing I could use to pay them was with all these jewels. It didn't really matter even if I used all of it in that box, as there were several more jewelry boxes overflowing with jewels and where they store all of the valuables. Okay, I can do that, lady. You'll be able to find that person real quick. But you can't request this thing to an informant whose job is finding someone. Then who? Only the places where they trade very valuable information and objects. Only the highly advanced agencies where the high-ranked nobles would go to. That you have the ability to find some on your own, right? Yes, of course. It was said that Binter owned one of those agencies, In the game, the base of the agency that he operated was said to be the most well-known and the biggest. So she'll be able to find it easily. I already knew that he was a marquis, a sorcerer, and that he secretly operated an agency. If I wanted to meet him, then I'd just have to go to the parties that he might consider going. But Binter was one of the main male characters, and he also had the most possibility after Isekai. I decided to make use of what happened in an episode from the normal mode to have a more dramatic meeting with him. After coming back to the mansion, the heroine goes searching for her lifesaver who helped her find her real family. All she knew about him was that he was a sorcerer with a rabbit mask on. However, when she encounters Binter in a party to debut as the realizes right away that he was the one who helped her by just his eye color. How does that make sense? How do you know a person just by looking at their eyes? I felt embarrassed at me who once was laughing in joy because the normal mode was so easy. I didn't intend to attend every party out there to meet Binter like what the normal mode heroine did. I'll just make it so that he comes to find me instead. I opened my mouth, and one more thing, don't make it noticeable to them that you're the maid of a high-rank noble lady. How just make it so that they think that a noble lady is secretly finding a man who she fell in love at first sight. Oh, my lady, Emily jumped in the spot at my whispering words. If it's something like that, just asking me would be faster. I creased my eyebrows at her reaction. High-ranked people are what all the maids gossip about together. If it's a single especially handsome noble man, then I already have them stuck in my... Emily, I cut through her words. Can you do what you're asked to do or not? Answer just that. Leave it to me, lady. I'll be sure to find out who the lady fell in love. It's nothing like that. I made that clear. I could guess what she was thinking right now. She doesn't know anything, but Emily didn't seem to believe my words as her eyes continued to shine. Looks like spring's finally approaching, our lady. I had no choice but to roll up my sleeves to bring her back to reality. Act wisely. The existence of your needle will depend on how you do on this job. This is a chance given to you, Emily. You might actually be kicked out from this place by doing what you weren't asked to do. The back of my hand was now all healed so that the needle marks weren't visible anymore. However, there was no way that Emily wouldn't know what it meant by me showing the back of my hand, as she made a solemn face. Did I develop affection towards her? I felt a little sorry to see that face. Just then, knock knock, lady, it's Pennell. Is the butler? If you forgot, a knocking sound came from the door. The butler never once opened the door without permission anymore. But even so, I always waited a few seconds before allowing him to open it. Come in. The butler cautiously opened the door and bowed. What is it? There's an invitation for Lady Penelope from the royal palace for me. I tilted my head. The second prince's birthday ceremony happened not too long ago, so there shouldn't be any other parties happening at the royal grounds for a while. Yes, lady, it seems like there's a small party on the last day of the festival to celebrate this country's victory. I frowned. What was up with the royals to plan parties so often? There was already a banquet celebrating the return. Quite a magnificent one at that. No, it's said that this time His Highness Crown Prince himself hosted it. I turned my head to face the butler in a robotic motion at his next words. The Crown Prince. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell icon for notifications.